So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Could I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Board communications, Phil.
Yeah, we have received a thank you it's from Ronnie Howerton and his family with Donna passing. Thank you for your love and support of our family.
Thank you.
No request for to do the board.
Okay, financial update.
Yeah, I let Ms. Andrews stay home today, so just to let the board know, the audit was officially submitted to the state on December 13th. It is required to be submitted by the 31st. Also, the district has moved forward with investing in 3 CDs to mature at various times, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months, at which time when they mature, we'll evaluate whether they're reinvested in that as a CD or not. We do have 2 other CDs that mature at the end of this month, and we will evaluate those once they mature to see what direction we want to move with those investments.
Okay, at this point, we'll reconvene with academic focus next month.
And same with making a difference. I will announce that it was Julie Burks, district nurse. She was recognized in a small group setting yesterday because we didn't want to hold all the staff late after school and let them go home. But we will recognize her in front of the board, give her that option next month if she wants to, and I'll do a formal recognition as well. So.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is your superintendent's report.
Yeah, the administrative reports are in your packet for review. And then board candidate filing update. There will not be a school board election this year. There were 2 candidates that signed up for the 2 open seats. Current board member Cole Shippey and soon to be new board member Kendra Mashmeyer. I hope I got that right, I believe.
Yeah.
Those 2 will serve 3-year terms starting on April 9th of 2024. And welcome back, Mr. Shippey, and welcome, Ms. Mashmeyer.
Next up, we have our discussion items, and first up is our CSIP.
Yeah, we're getting ready to update our CSIP that was approved last year, revisiting that plan. The review and update will start in a few weeks and include stakeholders from across the district. Planning 3 work sessions for the evaluation, review, and revision of the plan. And once the CSIP team is completed, the evaluation and changes, the plan will be presented to the board for review and approval. And I believe at this point, I know that Mr. McLaughlin has said he wanted to take part. Are there any other board members who would like to take part? What we're looking at are 3 evening meetings. I don't think we've allocated 2 hours. I don't think it'll take 2 hours for those 3 meetings over the next 3 months. But if there's anyone else that would like to be a part of that, please let me know so I can get you included.
How many board members are?
2.
Oh.
Well, we could, I got thinking about it. We've traditionally had 2, but kind of the way we got it set up, as many board members that want to participate, we'll make accommodations for them. So typically, anytime you have 4 board members in a meeting at a time, it has to be a board meeting, a scheduled board meeting. And if 4 or more board members want to take part in this, we can absolutely accommodate that because the first 2 meetings are going to be small group for each of our CSIP goals or SMART goals. So there wouldn't be more than 4 people in a meeting at that point. And then that culmination meeting where we review the entire plan, we could schedule that as a special meeting for those that are on the committee to attend. So if 4 or more want to be a part of it, absolutely. Historically, we've had 1 or 2, but anyone who wants to, by all means, let me know. Join Brad.
It'll be we'll laugh, we'll cry. It'll be better than cats.
I was on the committee last time. I'll do it again, but if somebody else wants to do it, that's fine too. Whatever.
You want to?
I don't wanna take a spot from anyone though, somebody else.
Well, no, like I said, we can do more than 2, so.
You interested in it? You don't want to?
No, I'm saying
You can have 3.
you can have it.
How about you do it, and if no one else does it, you can put both of them down, and then if there's not a third, then I'll do it. I don't wanna push it to 4 and make it,
If you find value in it, John, I would say.
I would
Yeah.
find,
both of them.
Yeah.
I would find value in,
Yeah.
even if we have 4, I'm okay with that.
I am
I don't have a
too.
problem with that. So,
Kelsey, we'll jump on board with
Yeah,
Frank.
and hey, pick
I'm
pick
volunteering you.
pick
Kelsey's
your
like,
SMART
what?
goals. You guys get first choice. You see those SMART goals, you pick your small group and I'll do.
I'll send an email to the 4 of you,
Okay.
and with what those specifics are, and a copy of the CSIP, so you don't have to go searching for it, but I'll send that to you probably tomorrow, and take a look at it, and let me know.
I just volunteered Kelsey.
I'll send it to the 3 of you for sure, and
Okay.
I'll include you, Kelsey, if you wanna join, you want.
Okay. I mean,
That's it on that.
Well, now that everybody's mad at everybody.
That's good,
It's
though, we're
alright.
gonna talk about Job Olympics next, and that'll be Elizabeth, and
Okay, next up we have Job Olympics. So,
Ms. Fagree is joining us virtually.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to discuss Job Olympics. Central Missouri Job Olympics we were able to host for the first time last April, and we're looking forward to hosting it again and hopefully for many years to come. It's a great time for students at the high school level from our district and several surrounding districts to come and showcase their job skills. So they've been practicing so far this year. Every student that participates will have a job application, a resume that they complete beforehand, and then they'll also have a practice interview during the Job Olympics event. They also will get to choose 2 job skills that they would like to showcase. So the jobs are all leveled. So a level 1 job might be like assembling a first aid kit or sorting items, doing some laundry sorting, rolling some silverware, wiping down tables. Level 2 might be bagging groceries or showcasing custodial skills that they can do, hanging clothes, setting a table, washing dishes. And then a level 3 will be more complex jobs. It might be sorting for the library, showcasing some secretarial skills, babysitting, making a sandwich that has specific directions. Do they want lettuce and tomato or not? Things that they can really utilize in a real work setting. I love this event because so many people are volunteers from our community. So last year, Odessa's Rotary Club was able to join us and be part of the judging for interviews and then also for each of the jobs. Kids compete all day long and then are awarded for their efforts. So every single job skill has, they have the ability to earn medals for each one of those jobs that they compete in, and then for the interviews as well. And then the team that is the champion for the day gets a trophy to take home as well. So Odessa is hoping to be reigning champions again. We had a few students who were wanting to attend the meeting just to really talk about what Job Olympics means to them and how it has helped them already. But the weather kept them home, so I wanted to share some of their comments. One student that did last year from Odessa said, "I really love Job Olympics. I had fun competing and showcasing my skills." Another student said, "The jobs that we do in school to practice really help me in my life. I am able to work at a restaurant now, and I am really good at my job. I am looking forward to showing everyone what I can do at Job Olympics." Another student said, "Job Olympics will help me with my interviewing skills. I get nervous sometimes. It is an opportunity to show what jobs you are best at, and it gives you real job experiences. I am most looking forward to learning new skills and having fun with my friends." So this year we are inviting all of the students and districts that have participated in the other events that we've hosted, like the Unified Track, the Unified Esports event that we had last year, the Unified Pro that we were able to host this past December. So Job Olympics will be at Berry Acres again. We're very thankful for their partnership with us and their willingness to work with our students with special needs. And the date is April 10th. So if anyone would like to be a part of that, we would love to have you. We would love to show you what we do and for you to see what our students are able to do. Some students went on after this event last year, and you'll see them working in our community now. And so I think as we look at what post-secondary goals are for our district, and for our students with special needs, it's really exciting to continue building those partnerships because those students are gaining confidence that they can do real life jobs and have those jobs after high school. But also it's allowing people in our community to see that our students are employable and that we are working on those skills. And so we can set them up for future success as well.
That's awesome.
It was a good event last year, I'm sure it will be, and
What time on April 10th? Is it just during the school day, like 8 to 3, or?
We will start with kind of the opening ceremonies around 9 a.m. and we anticipate it will go until 2. Depending on how many schools we have that sign up and students that choose to come, that could fluctuate a little bit, but that's what we're anticipating.
good deal.
Any other questions for Ms. Figure? Thank you.
She's not going over,
Thank
she's
you.
got the next one too, so.
Oh, okay. Okay. Next up on discussion items, we have reflex integration intervention.
Yeah, I've asked Ms. Graff and Ms. Fager to kind of talk about this, these interventions that they're doing with students, because it's really kind of cutting edge in a lot of ways and helping a lot of students that might not get help in other ways. I couldn't do it justice to speak to it, but I know these ladies can. I've had some long conversations with them about this, and it's really, I've actually had the opportunity to see some of the things that they're doing and the impact that it's having. So I'll just turn it over to them and let them talk about this. So go ahead, ladies.
So my name is Devin Graff, for those of you that don't know me. I have a company called Grow Pediatric Therapy Services, and we provide occupational therapy to many districts in Lafayette County and some in Saline. And then in 2018, a nonprofit, this nonprofit started in order to gain some grant funding that we wouldn't have been able to attain without being a nonprofit. So we started in Wellington and were able to get a grant from Lafayette County Children's Service Fund to be able to do some additional interventions for kids that might be struggling academically or struggling behaviorally. They might not be the kids that qualify for an IEP or a 504, but have struggles nonetheless. So the method that we use, it's all about reflex integration. So I just wanted to kind of give you a quick little elevator pitch today about reflexes, because I think a lot of us, when we hear reflexes, we think we go to the doctor hits our knee, our foot kicks up. That's a reflex. That is a reflex for sure. But traditionally, reflexes are intended to provide safety to babies just after birth. They come on board at a certain stage or age of development. They fall into the background, which is also called integration. So each reflex comes on board. It teaches our neurological system something at each stage of development. We use reflexes in the development of motor control, for appropriate sensory integration, for appropriate muscle tone. And if we think of development as like a pyramid, with higher level learning and functioning being in the very tip top of that pyramid, the reflexes could be considered the very base of that pyramid. So there's a lot of things that happen between reflexes teaching our body something and then us being able to really, produce output as a functioning adult as we, age. So some reflexes are intended to teach the body a skill and then integrate, but some are intended to be what we would call lifelong reflexes that we only call upon as needed. One of those lifelong reflexes is called fear paralysis. This reflex is intended to activate our fight, flight, freeze response, and there's also another, fawn is also another response when we're in danger. So, for example, if we see a tiger approaching us, we either need to fight the tiger, flee from the tiger, freeze so the tiger doesn't attack us. And then number 4, fawn doesn't exactly apply to the tiger example per se, but the fawn response is when an individual copes with a perceived danger by attempting to appease who's ever causing the danger in order to prevent them from causing them harm. So they're the pleasers. So in this example of the tiger, we try to be super nice to the tiger in the hopes that he doesn't eat us, essentially would be the fawn response for that. The fear paralysis response, we need that when we're truly in danger. But what happens when we live in a heightened sense of fear paralysis, we basically live in fight or flight every day if our fear paralysis is too active. We would perceive danger from things that aren't truly a threat. So for students living with an overactive fear paralysis reflex, we might see some symptoms like hypersensitivity to touch, overly sensitive to maybe loud noises or visual stimuli, hyperactivity, difficulty with anxiety, being timid, having like maladaptive patterns of self-protection and a lack of trust. Some of these students might fail to read visual cues in their environment. And then kind of a random one that's thrown in there is that many of them are resistant to grooming activities such as brushing teeth, going to the dentist, getting their hair cut, trimming fingernails, those kinds of things. I even had one student that was living so much in fight or flight when other students were too close to him or in his bubble, he would swing and hit the other students. This happened a lot when he was standing in lines throughout his day when he wasn't able to be the line leader. And so he was looked upon as just being a bad kid or being a really rough kid. Kids didn't want to be friends with him, and he was brought to my attention by the teacher one day. And after I observed for a minute, I was able to say, I think his fight or flight is turned on too high. So he was unconsciously perceiving those that were too close to him as a threat, and his response was to fight. So I think this is really important to understand in the education system, especially because this is a reflex that so many people and students just live in. But how many times do we see maybe people within the school setting have to use like a physical restraint or surround a student when they're becoming, aggressive or having a meltdown? And definitely not saying that's right or wrong, but if we can look at those types of instances as being a fight or flight response to perceived danger, just changing the lens, and saying, what if these students' responses truly weren't intentional or something that the student could help? And what if we could front load activities to get the student out of living in fight or flight instead? So it's all about being on offense instead of being on defense. We want to front load interventions so that we aren't responding to the behaviors later. Conversely to those types of lifelong reflexes, we have reflexes that should integrate and fall into the background at their intended time. Most of these reflexes integrate within the first year of life, but we ask the question, what happens when they don't? Various symptoms of reflexes being present are actually symptoms that affect learning. So for example, there's one reflex that is called ATNR. It stands for asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. And it's one of the reflexes that we consider a hallmark reflex for learning. So it's really important. This reflex should come on board around 13 weeks inside the womb, and it should integrate or fall into the background where it can't be elicited by the 6th or 7th month of life. So before kids are even walking, this reflex should not still be present. So what happens when we see this reflex present in a 3rd or 4th grader? Let me tell you, it's not good. And usually they're pegged the bad kid because they have some or all of these symptoms, like having trouble following verbal directions, asking what a lot or needing the directions repeated, having a slow or delayed response to auditory info, misunderstanding a great deal, they might not respond consistently to their own name because they're not hearing it. They have difficulty sequencing events, difficulty with attention, focus, memory. They have a disorganized approach to self-care tasks and routines. They may have letter and number reversals. They may not have a preferred hand. They're uncoordinated when they have cross-lateral movements in their body. And the coordination of cross-lateral movement, which is also considered a term called crossing the body's midline, it's actually the prerequisite skill for the eyes being able to cross the visual midline efficiently. And that skill is huge for being a fluent reader and being a reader who's able to comprehend what they're reading. So when the eyes can't cross our visual midline, students work so hard just to track between words and then make the sweep down to the next line that when they get to the end of what they've read, they have no clue what it was all about because they were just working so hard to make their eyes follow the text. And students have no reason that they have no clue that this is the reason that they're actually having difficulty. They can't feel their eyes jumping or not working well together. If this is the way it's always been for them, they probably just think they're not good at reading, or they might act out in a way so as to avoid the task at hand. Behaviors emerge when kids feel like they can't do what's expected of them. In my opinion, we have to do a better job of meeting them where they are developmentally, and that, again, in my opinion, is done through reflex integration. We can screen students who are struggling and provide the interventions to target which reflexes we find to be unintegrated. In the first semester at Odessa, attempting to do this by myself, I found gains and some successes for sure, but it's just left me realizing that I have to have more help in order to make the gains district-wide that I know that we can make. I truly believe that making some of these interventions more widespread throughout the district not only helps the students perform better and decreases the student behaviors that we might see, but it also can be something that boosts teacher morale. I think teachers feel more supported, they feel more successful because the students they're attempting to teach now have the capacity or attention for learning. And you know, as of right now, at the upper elementary, we're seeing about 35 students just between the hours of 8 and 11:30 every morning. And the teachers are seeing great things with it. They're asking for more. And so I feel like it's my job to advocate for these services and hopefully grow them, not just in the Odessa School District, but across Lafayette County.
I got a question, Mr. Graff. Do we do do we work with parents at all on this?
Did you say parents? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Do we work with parents at all on any of these methods to be used outside the
You know,
classroom?
we can, and I've actually had a few parents reach out and ask, you know, what else can we do? Being a parent myself of a child that has special needs and needs a lot of this work, it's hard to be the person doing those interventions after school. After school, when kids are already kind of done for the day, you know, and I applaud the parents that actually are able to do it and want to do it because it is hard. But, you know, for those that reach out, I definitely, you know, give some suggestions. You know, I've been able to give teachers suggestions, even if it's not a student that I'm actually able to see for the interventions. I'm able to give teachers some suggestions for switching things up in the classroom a little bit to maybe compensate for those deficits. We're not fixing the underlying reason why the deficits exist, but a lot of times we can help to compensate for it.
Ms. Graff, how many kids have you in the first semester worked with so far or reached out, and just approximately give us an idea of who you're helping so far?
Well, it's a great question. So the 35 students in the upper elementary, those are the students that I was able to gain parent permission to be able to see. I know that there are more, you know, out there that need those services in that one building alone. And there are some that haven't returned the permission form that we all know very well need a little extra help, but without that permission piece, our hands are a little bit tied. I've been able to go out into the early childhood center and do some continuing education with those teachers and paraprofessionals who were very receptive to all the things. I think Elizabeth will acknowledge that we saw light bulbs turning on their faces the day we were out there presenting to them. It was like, it made so much sense to them why we might be seeing the things we're seeing in the kids. So I've worked with probably, at least 20 of those students out there. I have a list of students at Macquarie that Mrs. Russell has identified as being kids she would really like to see some screenings done on and potential interventions if we're able to get permission. But I've just been so busy kind of putting out the hottest fire first, if you will. And it just felt like the upper elementary was kind of ready to run with me on this thing, and so that's where we started. And I think a lot of those 3rd through 5th graders, not that all ages aren't important, but there's so much going on with 3rd to 5th grade, lots of hormones changing, lots of big feelings, different things going on inside the body that it feels like a great place to start and a great place to make some changes for those kids and hopefully for those 5th graders get some things in order before they move on, to junior high next year and have even more expectations. So I guess that didn't really answer your question. I didn't do the math in my head, but I would say it's probably, already been close to probably 100 at least between all the buildings. Now some of that is in the capacity of an occupational therapist, which I do also help with in the district. Michelle Davis, the occupational therapist that's been with you guys for a long time, she has her plate full, and so there's a lot of things that I do to help support her as well, completely separate from this grant that we received. But I would say it's been close to 100, and I've talked to and helped to educate probably, I would say close to 20 to 25 of your employees as well. That might be on the low side.
And I would like to, and I'll let Jessica speak to this because I know that she's got some feelings about it too, but I would like to expand this intervention for the students. She's talked about the number that she's reached out to, and there's several more that could utilize this type of an intervention. And I would like to expand it by utilizing some paraprofessionals that would be able to implement these strategies under her supervision. I think it's one of those things that sometimes it's hard to see the tangible return, but at the same time, at the classroom level, I think the teachers are the ones that are going to see the return, obviously.
I feel like as a board, we sit and we get to hear Elizabeth talk about the things that they're doing in special education and the gains we've made and the things that we've reached with under her leadership, and it's been phenomenal. I think by bringing Devin on board, what we can do is kind of think outside the box, and our special education population is a very, very important one, and there's other students that, let's be honest, not everybody qualifies for special education, nor do they qualify for a 504, and this program would be something that would reach a huge percentage of our students in a small amount of time and improve areas that truly make a difference with their learning. I have personally been impacted with my own child, and he went through the primary grades, and it was really, really hard for him. He was smart. He was, he could read. He had a great attitude. He never got in trouble, but he couldn't sit in a chair. He couldn't walk up steps. He ran into everything, and it took him over 4 minutes to write his ABCs in the 3rd grade. And with a few months of interventions, he could write his ABCs in 30 seconds. So this is a whole child approach that looks at their vision. I mean, I don't know. It's just a huge, this will be one of the best decisions that you guys sitting here will make. I told Dr. Odinger this last week by him even being open-minded to listen to them. The impact that will happen because of this program will make a huge difference in the students, the teachers, the family, the administrators, our entire school population. So I am beyond excited to be able to sit here and listen to them because Devin, there just won't be a better decision that you guys make. So
I would mirror those comments. I've got an 18-year-old that went through the protocols. I think he was 9 and had similar outcomes. I have 2 questions, Elizabeth. A, are we going to do any sort of data tracking? I mean, can we take a baseline, and Devin, that you probably can do this with your eyes closed, but I would love to see pre and post kind of, there's always a benefit to empirical data behind, any of these types of interventions. And number 2, is this only something that a diagnostician can do, or can we build some capacity in our staff, kind of sharpen those saws to do some of this?
I think those are both great questions. For your first question, as far as data, that's something that we've already started having conversations about. The qualitative data, the opinions, right? Teacher opinion and perception is going to be the easiest to gather. But those quantitative, like we want to see difference in numbers too. So our initial thoughts were looking at behavior. What has behavior looked like pre-intervention and then post-intervention over time? And are we seeing a difference, and are we seeing improvement in that realm? But that could also go into a student who struggles with focus, who, like Ms. Porter was saying, may not qualify for any specific services, but could have this intervention. Are we now seeing a student that could only attend to task for, 5 minutes,
Right.
and now sit and attend to task for a longer period of time? And so that's going to be not necessarily a special education, special service plan, but that could be a gen ed plan, where we're building this intervention into our MTSS gen ed plans. And then are we seeing success? We can definitely follow and track the data that way as well. I think that is huge as we're looking at supporting those students who don't receive services any other way. You're talking about kids who may be considered at risk. So that's one population, but then you're also talking about those students who are currently functioning at basic or proficient,
Right.
but with a little bit more regulation or ability to focus more intensively, or any of the things that Devin was talking about. Can their potential now be advanced, or can their potential be from basic to proficient? And so I think as we roll through this, we can continue to look at, okay, now we've looked at this data and we have seen a proven difference. What else? What else can we see as we continue to dive in further? And then in regards to your second question, I think Devin, you can respond to that one.
And that's about building capacity and the current staff, correct? Yes. And I mean, my hope is that, they want to know more because they see the changes, and it makes them hungry for more information. I think, teachers have such a hard job. It's one of the hardest jobs out there. And I hope that I can convince them that, these are prerequisites for what they need to achieve. And the prerequisites inside the student's mind, and to facilitate that higher level functioning that they're trying to, impose on them. And I think teachers oftentimes just feel like they're not effective, or they're not making the changes that they would like to be able to see. I mean, we all love to have job satisfaction. I mean, listening to Jessica talk about me, it makes me teary, and then that makes me feel really good to know that, that I can impact those changes in families and in students. And, so I'm always there as a resource for teachers. I was just sharing with Elizabeth before we joined you all that I did have one of the Odessa teachers reach out to me via email over break, thinking about what we've talked about, thinking about this protocol. And there's a specific protocol for dyslexia within some of the reflex integration work we do. And she wants to learn it and she wants to know how to go about it. So I think we're on the cusp of, you know, teachers seeing all these changes and then wanting more knowledge for themselves as well. But while I think that they absolutely have the capacity to do it, I worry sometimes that they don't have the time of the day to themselves do the things. One of the things we also do in Wellington is, and I mention Wellington only because we've been there longer. We've changed things every single year we've been there. You know, we tweak things and we improve on things, I feel like. And you know what we've figured out how to do within that smaller school setting is to push into every single classroom from preschool through, you know, third grade, doing some whole group things that even if that practitioner isn't there that day, then the teacher knows what they can do because they've seen it. It's been modeled for them over and over and over again. And I think the teachers feel so much more comfortable with it when that modeling, you know, takes place and they don't feel like it's something that they have to just read in a book and try to figure out for themselves. So that's been a really positive thing that's happened out of that group work in front of the teachers there. And we've been able to impact a lot more kids that way as well.
Alright.
Not just the one-on-one hands-on things that we do, which is great work to do, but how do you decide, you know, which 60 to 70 kids in a day that get my hands, you know, or get my hands on, get my brain, get my one-on-one attention. And that's hard to do in a district this size. You know, we have to figure out ways that to better, you know, use our resources to divide and conquer. And it just takes a lot of manpower to do all those things.
It does, and you did answer my question, Devin. I think where I was going with that was really creating an awareness, learning some initial identification, and things of that nature. I don't expect the teachers to be diagnosticians, but creating some look-fors. I love the pushing concept, and I don't know. Just creating that awareness.
Absolutely.
And I think along with creating that awareness is getting all, you know, administrators on board with understanding the impact and being able to say, okay, my teachers are struggling with this.
Right.
Let's, you know.
Well, and Elizabeth, just I'm planting a seed here. I'm sure you'll affirm this, but this might be the very first opportunity to allow an intervention to take place, like systematically in a classroom, and for some of these teachers to see the academic growth that can occur from that type of intervention. And I don't know. I mean, that's a great way. That's some solid momentum to move toward a multi-tiered system of support.
Absolutely, and then what's next? And so as teachers, especially with all the things that they have on their plate right now, I think they're looking for, okay, what is the best investment of my time or my mental capacity or this new thing that I'm doing, right? And so for some of our kids, you're almost going to see what feels like an instant difference. For my own child, she's younger, but we took her to Children's Mercy and did some reflex integration, and she was struggling to truly communicate. And it was after a couple sessions, she took my face and turned it toward her and was like, what? And was literally watching my mouth. And then it was like everything that was inside started to come out. And now you would never know. She'll talk your ear off and has an incredible vocabulary. But when I think about this, if we have this knowledge, know better, do better, right? So now we can take this knowledge and impact another child's life the way that my child was impacted. And what does that do for their future, you know? And so that's why we're all sitting in this room, is to make a difference and to help our kids become the best that they can be. And so if this can do that for kids that otherwise wouldn't have services under my umbrella, right? Then I'm super thankful for Devin and that she's willing to partner with us.
I'm not familiar as you guys with it, but I guess from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's not just the kids that you work with, it's also how much are we giving back to the kids that would have otherwise been spent dealing with
That's right.
these behaviors. So this going on the offensive up front is really gonna, it's not just the student involved with that, but it's taken away from everyone else. So there's a lot of time we can get back. The teachers can focus on what they do best.
Couldn't have put it any better, Cole. And you did it in like 10% of the words I would. Yeah.
Well, and another thing too is the staff component is important, but with the interventions can be student driven also. And so you have an adult present, but the kids understand and feel and know what it does for their body and their learning. And as they catch on and are shown the ways to do it, they're able to, independently do some of it as well, so.
For sure, and that to me is probably one of the most important things, because when they leave the upper elementary building and they don't have a Miss Devon anymore, what are they going to do? They have to know how to to make these changes happen for themselves in some way, shape, or form. So what I'm trying to teach the children when they come in is that we have a check-in. How does your body feel? And we go green, yellow, and red. Green meaning it feels fast, red it's too slow, and yellow it's just right. Kind of like a tachometer almost, if you will. And so as I teach them this over a couple weeks, then I'll say, they come in and they say, okay, I'm green today. Okay, what have we done in the past couple weeks that when your body was green made it a little more yellow? And they kind of start to really have some light bulbs turn on. They go, oh, well, when I'm green, I need to do this and this, okay, let's do that today, and then let's check in and see how you feel. So making them a little more responsible for, their actions, their reactions to things, and having them have a little bit more of a say, and then not just me imposing my decisions on what I think they need, but let's talk this through, and you get to be a little more invested in it too.
Devin, I had a question. I'm over here. You mentioned the ages or grades 3 through 5 being a crucial age. For parents that may be listening or have questions with kids younger than that, how important is it like at an earlier age to catch? Is it more important in that kind of puberty range age or earlier?
The earlier the better. If we can catch it and get these reflexes to integrate earlier, then we don't have those difficulties in the 3rd through 5th grade. Ideally, once we do the work, it's there, it's done, the reflexes are integrated. Now, there's some trauma things that can happen. I've seen a student that was in a pretty traumatic car accident who was, fairly typically developing, come back after a car accident and have all these reflexes that popped up, because those reflexes are still there and they can come forward to provide that safety as needed. So ideally, once we integrate them, we don't have to reintegrate them. But with that being said, there are obviously some things that can happen that would make that statement not true. But the earlier the better. And I was just sharing with Elizabeth, it's been heavy on my heart for a long time that we need to catch these kids even sooner than our early childhood program. And so I've recently just signed back up to be a First Steps provider, so that's birth to 3, because I feel like, in my brain, I can see these kids in your early childhood program and that number being maybe half of what it is right now if some of these kids had had some earlier intervention. And that might be a little lofty, but I think that, as Elizabeth said, when we know better, we do better. And I do think that, I've seen it work firsthand too many times to deny that earlier intervention piece, it happens quicker. Those connections are so much easier to be made the younger we can get our hands on those kids. So definitely looking forward to being more in the early childhood center as we figure out how this program is going to grow and change within your district.
Well, I just gotta say, I appreciate the passion. I mean, we know Ms. Fagery, you know, her passion for it, but I like to see the passion you have as well for it, and I think that's what makes, you know, especially this program as great as it is, and you know, also the other, you know, great teachers we have in the district as well. But anyways, I like to see the passion both of you have, so I appreciate that.
The
Thank you.
expansion.
My husband would call it an affliction. You know, some people say, you know, that they have a calling for things, and I truly feel like this has been my calling. I have a background in finance and accounting. That was my first life. I worked for Edward Jones. I did a lot of things in the finance world, and once I had my son who was born with special needs, I learned what occupational therapy was, and then once I was trained in that, went on to get this type of training, and I have never looked back. It is amazing the changes that it makes, not just for those kids, but for the whole family dynamic. And I can't ever do it a different way again. It really does work. So I appreciate your guys' time and listening, and if anybody has any questions that come up after the fact, please feel free to email. I have an Odessa email. It's just the dgraph@Odessa R-VII. So I'm an open book. I appreciate the questions and the interaction.
The expansion that would include taking these services down to the lower elementary as well.
Do we have anything else for Ms. Graff or Ms. Fagery?
So,
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have action items, being the 2024-25 school year calendar.
Yeah, the calendar's in your packet for approval. It was presented last month as a first reading. The school will start on Wednesday, August 21st, and would dismiss on Friday, May 16th. We would, in the event of maximum number of inclement weather days, still be able to be out prior to Memorial Day.
Okay, any questions about it? If not, I need a motion to approve the 24-25 school year calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Next up, we have the music umbrella policy.
Dr. Fagan.
So included in your packet is information on umbrella policy like in years past. We have purchased the additional $1 million coverage, which would take, which further protects the district. There's in automobile claims or dangers on the premises. Those are the two areas that the limits are extended for music. So would recommend purchasing the additional coverage each.
Do we have any questions for Roger on that? If not, I need a motion to approve the purchase of the additional $1 million insurance umbrella policy. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next up is our food service vendor.
Dr. Fagan.
At the end of this year, our 5-year contract with OPA expires. It's a 5-year, it's always every 5 years set by USDA and DESE. So we've been going through that process for the last couple of months. Had OPA Food Service, Southwest Food Service Excellence, and PAHR, all three submit bids. Based on all the information, scoring rubric, our recommendation, I believe that OPA Food Service is the best provider, best proposal for the district, and recommend we continue with OPA.
Did you generate that rubric?
So that rubric is provided in part. You can change their guidelines. DESE provides those areas with the stipulation that cost has to be has to have the most value to it, and the rest you can adjust prior to sending out the RFP. So those are standard, I say DESI provided, really USDA provided areas.
It's a nice way to measure the bids. It makes it pretty simple, honestly.
Okay, do we have any other questions or anything? At this point, I need a motion to approve OPA food service.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, next up, we have the central office foundation repair.
So we talked a little bit about the office and the settling of said office. Had 3 companies come out and look. KC Peer, Foundation Experts, Level Up KC, and Foundation Recovery Systems. They looked, offered their expert opinions, their advice, number of peers, cost, all things considered. Believe KC Peer Foundation Experts is the best overall quote. Total price $34,100. They would be they'd be putting 18 piers under the building from the outside, 2 from the inside to avoid the generator. The ones on the outside, they'll be removing and putting back the AC units out there. But I would recommend using them, and then I'll proceed with scheduling and all the things that go along with that.
You said they'll do 18 piers.
18 from the outside and then 2 internally. So Janet doesn't know yet, but we have to clean out the closet again. So.
Surprise, spring clean. Do you know how long Casey Pierre's been in business? Not, I just was curious.
I don't off the top of my head. I did at one time.
I was reading their warranty, obviously, and it says they're gonna stand behind them for the lifetime. I just was curious how long it is.
Longer than,
At least
As long or
2017.
longer than the others, I remember that.
Oh, okay.
which was a consideration.
This didn't include like any like actual structural repair, like tuck pointing the brick or any interior repairs or
Just the peering, and then once they've done that, we'll fill cracks and we'll go back and do that, or have some kind of pointing done. Repair another wall.
Okay.
Cole, you were, this, weren't you? You looked at this.
Yeah, and just based on the amount of work, kind of, one being the warranty, been around a long time. This is the last time we want to mess with this. John thought maybe we had messed with this before, but didn't find any records of it. So the warranty was an issue. I wanted to make sure we had a good company that's been around a while.
Yeah.
Service the warranty. And they took into account disconnecting the air conditioning units and getting them out of the way, whereas others maybe didn't put that into the cost. We would have to do that on our own, so there's costs there that we just make up for somewhere.
Okay. Any other questions? Now I need a motion to approve KCP.
I'll take a second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the additional agricultural education instructor.
Yeah, so as we have grown that program over the last couple of years, over the last 5 years, we've expanded from 90 students to 142 students. I think it's appropriate to add an instructor because we have a lot of classes that are offered every other year that we could fill, I think, annually by offering them every year. Would also allow us to expand. What we're talking about is expanding our welding option. Right now, we send kids to Lex Lorraine, and we're limited on the number of kids that can even go up there. So, building into this scheduling a welding block for students to be able to do that on campus, as well as you see in there, food science, ag business, additional horticulture offerings, and looking at how we can expand this down to an exploratory at the middle school too. So, definitely I think, would be a positive. The reason it's coming before you right now is because they are building the schedule for next year right now, and hopefully before the next board meeting, they will be starting to schedule students in classes. So we want to be able to include this and not have to go back and change schedules if kids wanted to take those classes. So,
Huge advocate, anything expansion agriculture or CTE, career technical education in general. Getting to the, just gonna throw this out on the table, but when we start expanding that schedule, start thinking about, I know there's a lot of woodworking offerings right now and expanding some welding offerings. I don't know who's doing the Perkins applications, the funding, things of that nature. Might not be a bad idea to see if there's a halftime CTE director or something in that staff somewhere who can take that on. Cause I'll tell you, the POs, like, getting that Perkins submission takes a lot of time.
I don't know, and I'm a little bit familiar with it because many of my previous districts had a career center, you know. I don't know for sure that we'll be able to qualify for Perkins money because we're qualifying it through.
Like, already, we're basically in it.
But we will be able to, and we have several times in the last 5 years taken advantage of the enhancement grant, 50/50 money, those types of things. In fact, we just bought a bunch of new welders this last year on the enhancement grant. So already starting to look at some of those things because that application deadline comes. In fact, you'll have to see that at the February board meeting, anything that we make a request for, because the application deadline for enhancement is February 29th this year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Is there space in the building for an additional instructor?
Yes. I guess at one point in time, I know there was 2 way back, and I've heard that at one point there was 3 instructors. So Dr. Fagan's kind of been working with Mr. Shepherd and the teaching staff out there to kind of configure how that will look, but pretty minimal change to be able to accommodate the additional class.
Hey, will you, if you visit with them, find out who's doing their POs. Cause if I know Gene, he's probably trying to take it all on himself. Don't
He's-
wanna burn out a young guy that's doing the program.
So on the enhancement grant, that kind of stuff this last year, he and Kat worked closely together with all that. So he's not alone in it, and she has an understanding of it as well.
Any other questions? If not, I need a motion to hire an additional ag teacher.
I'll make that one.
All in favor? Thank you. At this point, I need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to statute 610.021 R similar to